journey to the success and the goals, everything that you want to achieve doesn't have to be gritty and struggly and lonely. That is a narrative that not only I, but many people I know believed had to be the case to accomplish our goals. And I was actually teaching a sales training for Bruno Bairami in his company the other day, and one of the students was telling me about the hustle that he was undergoing a lot of stress and working in silence, and he'll prove everyone wrong. And it reminded me of myself. It reminded me how I used to be. I'd spend days morning to night just working by myself on my laptop, and it was coming from a very emotionally draining place. It was coming from a place of anger, coming from a place of I'm going to prove everyone wrong, I'm going to show everyone my success, sacrifice now for rewards later. And I did this for years, actually. I'm 26 now. And they hit a point to where I was getting results, but the results were very much 2x kind of results within my business. It was growing and all of this stuff, but something within me just didn't feel right, you know? I future paced exactly the direction I was going, and I just thought to myself, this is not how I actually want my life to look, you know, just to hit a certain goal or a landmark. This was not the way that I wanted to do it. And as you get older, you start to realize, you know, I'm still young, don't get me wrong, but I've spent 10 years in this journey of self-development. So 10 years is already some skin in the game. I just started a little earlier. And you hit a point where you're like, is this really it? Like, is this how it's going to be? And that was a thought process that really made me rethink everything. And what had happened after that point is that I pulled the string, actually. I just decided, you know what? This is not how I want to do it. If I had the choice to redesign my life, to redesign how I'm going to help people through coaching fitness and coaching sales and personal development, if I'm going to do this and I do have a passion for it, how can I set it up in a way to where I enjoy it, so that the more I pour into it, the more it's just a benefit for not only the customer, but for me as well, for everyone. So that way, I just want to keep pouring as much as possible into it. And that's when I recognized that if I actually made the process in a way that would still get me results and move me forward, but be done in a way that was enjoyable for me, that energized me, then I would just keep going. And I would keep going in a way to where I wouldn't feel like I was neglecting all these other parts of my life. And that was what I was doing. Coming back to the student where he was telling me about working hard in silence and all of this, I asked him, why do you want to do all of these things in the first place? And the narrative was because ultimately he wanted to set himself up so he could have the resources and everything to that way then connect with people. And the most interesting thing is this, is that story of I'm going to work in silence, you know, fuck everyone, I'm going to build myself up, and then I'm going to be the person who everyone wants to go to connect with. What that actually does, and what ended up happening with me, was that I'd push people away, right? I would push them away because I would put the objective first. But then I recognized, isn't that paradoxical? You know, my whole point of doing this is connection, but I'm habituating a behavior that is actually pushing people away. And the most funny thing was I recognized that even if that was the strategy, which is spend time alone to build your business up, to make money and then to connect, you then recognize that, well, if you want to do well in business, it's more of a relationship game than a be alone and work all day kind of game. The people who actually do well in the business point of view have relationships with many people and come from a place of service. Therefore, people actually want to work with them, especially in a service-based business. So it's completely paradoxical. It was a false belief that I had created, that I had to push people away, work in silence to make the money and then have the people in my life. When in reality, if I had just approached my goals from a place of, hey, I'm going to do the work necessary, but I'm also not going to be opposed to connection and helping people and giving them the time of the day. If I actually had the best of those both worlds, it would come hand in hand, it would come together. Not only when I made that transition, I was getting more word of mouth, people were recommending me, but it was also more fulfilling for my personal life. That energized me, and I could actually work even harder from the work side of things. And that's exactly the conversation I had with this student from Bruno's coaching. And I could only have that perspective after 10 years of suffering, so to speak, with that lifestyle. And it's very hard to try to let go of that, because my whole identity was based off of this: I'm a hard worker, better than everyone in the room, or I'll work harder than everyone in the room, you know, watch me show you kind of mentality. And it was very hard to actually have that ego death to a degree, to say, no, 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 you're not better than anyone. We are all from the same place. And ultimately, the people who are not only doing well career-wise, but they've got their connections dialed, their health dialed, they're holistic about it, their experience of that process is just so much more fulfilling. So which one do you want? And that's where I had to have that hard conversation and be like, well, I want that one. And this is the conversation I had with the student, and you could just see the reaction. He realized why where that narrative was coming from in the past, maybe getting hurt by someone or whatever it is. It might be different for everyone. But the repercussions that framework, which can get you to a point of success in your goal, but the limitations it also has in all the other areas. And that's why I like to look from a macro point of view. Will this framework actually serve all of the values that you have? And if not, are you willing to accept that sacrifice? Me personally, I'd rather set everything up in a way to where it ticks all of my values, the connection, everything. So that way, the more I just put into my life, the more I enjoy my life, the more I'll get out in every area, and then the more I want to pour back in. So it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy of doing better and better and better. And that was the complete paradigm shift that changed my life. And also my attitude, because now the process is actually so much more enjoyable. And this is the story that not only I had to go through, but now helping other people recognize that. So maybe just take some time to self-reflect and see where your motivations are coming from, and maybe some of the repercussions that can come from that. If you want to learn more paradigm shifts like this, ways to look at the world, so that way you can think in a way that will serve the kind of life you want, I've got a 30-day mental mastery newsletter, different tips, ways to think about life, things that have served me in regards to making this transformation, in regards to how I completely operate to create the life that I want. Link in description. Hope it helps. See you in the next one.